and is to enhance current collection system. The scope includes construction of new system, cleaning, inspection and repair of existing stormwater system, provisions of green infrastructure. The overall objective is to improve collection and conveyance system and avoid water ponding and flooding in the streets. As a result, this is to provide continuity of services while a new contract of stormwater services is being solicited. There will be no change in contract value. The term of the agreement will continue monthly from August 7, 2023 to May 7, 2024.
Thank you. And I did want to announce we've been joined by Councilmember Antonio Lewis. Colleagues, any questions or comments? Councilmember Shook.
Yeah, what's the status of the solicitation?
Yes, Council. Currently, the solicitation is at DOP, followed by approximately 60 days of time to execute the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? We've got a motion to approve by Councilmember Shook, a second by Dozier. Mr. Johnson, can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 2, 23-0-1534, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee to enter into the third amendment to Agreement FC 10118, Cooperative Purchase Agreement for Small Water Meter Installation and Replacement Services with KM Davis Contracting Company Incorporated via Cobb County Water System Contract, fiscal year 2018-2019, new water meter installations for small water meter installation and replacement services on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management to retroactively add funding to the agreement to pay the final invoice in an amount not to exceed $1,518,247.45. All contract work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Yes, good morning, Chairman Winston, council members. I'm Deputy Commissioner Hugh Smith, the Office of Customer Care and Billing Services in the Department of Watershed Management. The purpose of this legislation is to retroactively add funding to the final to pay the final invoice under Agreement FC 10118, which is a cooperative purchasing agreement with KM Davis for large and small meter installations. The amount is not to exceed $1,518,245.15. In accordance with Ordinance 22-0-1485, the city exercised a third renewal of the agreement, which was effective from June 14, 2022 through June 13, 2023. The Department of Watershed Management received the final invoices and all work was done pursuant and during the effective dates of the agreement. The final invoice from KM Davis has been reviewed and approved by the Department of Watershed Management. Therefore, the Department of Watershed Management is asking to retroactively add funding to pay the final invoice from KM Davis in the amount of $1,518,247.15. That concludes my remarks. I welcome any questions.
Any questions or comments? Councilmember Shook.
So I'm going to read the third from the last whereas, which reads, whereas the department has received the final invoice from KM Davis Contracting, Inc. for services provided before the term of the agreement expired, but the amount of the final invoice exceeds the total not to exceed amount of the agreement. So tell us how that came to happen.
That was due to additional expenses during the installation of those small and large meters. Sometimes when you're doing the large meter installs, it's very hard to budget for those because there's no such thing as a one-off. And throughout that process, from time to time, we do exceed the intended budget amounts.
And the amount exceeded was $2 million?
No, actually, also in conjunction to that, we were looking to extend or renew the agreement, I think a fourth time. However, because it was a piggyback agreement with Cobb County, that agreement had expired, so we're not able to extend the same agreement with KM Davis. So we did request additional funding in preparation for that fourth renewal. However, we were not able to, receive that fourth renewal because the piggyback time frame had expired.
So what was the amount by which the the project went over?
It was close to 700,000 is the actual amount, somewhere between $700,000 and $800,000, sir.
That's the amount it went over?
Actual overages, yes, but there again, there were, like I say, the intent was to ask for another extension, but because the piggyback agreement had expired, we're not able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Councilman? So just so we're all on the same page, so 700,000 over, but it also, there's money that's included for a new contract as well, or new service?
No, the additional funding was for, the additional amount takes into consideration work that was going to be proposed in a third, amendment or third renewal, or fourth renewal, I'm sorry, because this is renewal number 3, which has been a fourth renewal. But we were not able to request that since the original contract, the piggyback contract with Cobb had expired. So there are some expenses that should have been addressed in a new amendment, a new agreement.
Okay, and when do we expect to see probably a new agreement?
We're in the process of going through procurement right now. That agreement should be out momentarily. In fact, I think it's probably with DOP now. It should post this month.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve. Second. I have a second by Lewis. Open the vote.
Vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nay. This item is favorable. This takes us to Section H, Resolutions. Mr. Chair, the department requests to take items number 3 and 5 together as a block if there is no objection from the committee.
No objections from my colleagues? Seeing none, please proceed.
Item number 3, 23R4269, a resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor as designee to execute a First Amendment to Agreement RFPC 1220116B annual contract for major mechanical repairs and services with Ruby Collins SE Consortium Joint Venture LLC on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management to add funding for the purpose of addressing critical maintenance throughout water and wastewater treatment facilities and maintaining regulatory compliance in an amount not to exceed $6 million. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Item number 5, 23R4273, a resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor as designee to execute the First Amendment to Agreement RFPC 1220166A, annual contract for mechanical repairs and services with Lakeshore Engineering Contessa Construction Joint Venture LLC on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management to add funding for the purpose of addressing critical maintenance throughout water and wastewater treatment facilities and maintaining regulatory compliance, an amount not to exceed $4 million and 0 cents. All contract work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you. DC Fletcher.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Winston. Good morning, council members. I'm Quentin Fletcher, Deputy Commissioner for the Office of Water Treatment and Reclamation. The purpose of this legislation is to request to execute the First Amendment to add funding to both agreements, RFP-C-12201-6A and B, annual contract for major mechanical repairs and service. These contracts will be used to provide preventive and reactive maintenance, repairs and replacement to key mechanical assets throughout the drinking water and water reclamation treatment facilities. These contracts will be used to address critical maintenance needs identified within the capital improvement program. DWM has identified a comprehensive list of critical repairs for each facility. The scope of the repairs include pump system services and repairs, chemical system services and repairs, mechanical testing and inspections, and structure repairs. The maintenance of these facilities is essential to advancing the Department of Watershed Management goal of providing safe drinking water, water reclamation services, and watershed protection. Both contractors have completed work in projects in the city in the past. This request is critical. The city is required to meet the requirements of the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permits issued by the Georgia Environmental Protection Division. Under these permits, the city is required to maintain critical systems to meet discharge limits to protect public health and the Chattahoochee River water quality. This concludes my briefing. I am happy to address any questions that you may have.
Thank you, DC Fletcher. Any comments or questions from my colleagues? So a motion to approve by Boone. Now, this does, in a second by Lewis, this does add significant funding to both of these. Was it something that you think happened because of various issues that we couldn't control, or can you explain a little bit more about, especially with the first one, Ordinance 3, it adds almost, $500,000 more than the original agreement?
Absolutely. Great question, Chairman Winston. Our dedicated men and women in the maintenance department, they take care of the preventive maintenance. Some needs are outside of their skill set, and so we have to utilize the two vendors that we're adding contracts to today, Lakeshore Engineering and Ruby Collins.
So we have a motion to approve by Boone and a second by Lewis. Mr. Johnson, if you could open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. These items are favorable.
Thank you.
This takes us to item number 4, 23R4270, a resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor's designee to enter into a memorandum of understanding and contract item agreement with the State of Georgia Department of Transportation on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management for the purpose of adjusting water and sewer infrastructure that conflicts with the Department of Transportation's milling and resurfacing project number listed herein along State Route 154 Memorial Drive from City Street 3586, Ted Turner Drive to City Street 2081 Pearl Street in Fulton County, an amount not to exceed $920,840.40. All contract work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for the purposes.
Hey, good morning, Chairman Winston, council members, Makita Browning, Commissioner for Department of Watershed Management. Purpose of legislation is to request the mayor to enter a contract item agreement with Georgia Department of Transportation and appropriate funds in the amount requested. Georgia DOT is sponsoring a milling and resurfacing project along SR 154, Ted Turner Drive to Pearl Street in Fulton County. This project is within City of Atlanta's Council Districts 1, 4, and 5. DW has 121 water valves and 103 sanitary sewer manholes that need to be adjusted, lowered prior to milling and raised after resurfacing to accommodate GDOT's milling and resurfacing project. To expedite the staging of construction and minimize service interruptions, we feel it's in the best interest of DWM to allow these adjustments to be performed under GDOT's construction contract. This program limits City of Atlanta's liability to traffic and safety concerns due to the milling and resurfacing project. DW's construction cost is the $920,840.40. This project is currently in design phase and construction is scheduled for fourth quarter of this calendar year.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Browning. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? A motion to approve by Shook, a second by Councilmember Boone. I did have one quick question. I know that we've got the BRT project happening kind of in the same area. Will this add any delays, or will it work in conjunction with that project?
I will have to speak with the project team. I can certainly inquire with them and see if there's going to be any impacts.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, the motion, have we properly motioned and seconded? Mr. Johnson, can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Mr. Chair, that concludes our legislative items.
All right. Well, Commissioner Brown, perfect timing, because today we have a presentation by the Department of Watershed Management, quarterly update. So we will let you get into that update.
Okay. All right, good morning, Chairman Winston, City Utility Committee members. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to update the committee on Watershed's progress during fourth quarter of fiscal year 2023. This covers a period of April through June of 2023. However, I will be covering a couple of recent events. Advancing to slide 3, this illustrates Department of Watershed Management departmental organizational chart. Next, I'll cover administrative and financial updates. So advancing to slide 5. This provides an update regarding our personnel status. For the reporting period, Department of Watersheds Management number of authorized positions were 1,597 positions, with 1,252 filled and 273 vacancies. Our percent filled is roughly 78%, with a vacancy rate of roughly 17%, which is down from 20% from the previous quarter. We're continuing to focus efforts to fill mission-critical positions within our core operational offices, and are continuing to increase recruitment efforts and fostering strategic partnerships with local educational institutions to develop a pipeline of future candidates to fill critical vacancies. The next couple of slides, 6 through 8, slide 6 provides a snapshot of our fourth quarter fiscal year 23 financials. Our O&M expenditures were 100% for personnel and roughly 80% for non-personnel budget allocations at the close of the fiscal year. Slide 7, end of June, our fiscal year actual revenues were roughly $682 million, roughly $33 million ahead of projections. And our end of year fiscal year expenses were within budget at $551 million. Advancing to slide 8, this provides a graphic that illustrates our fiscal year 22 revenues actuals and our fiscal year 23 projections and actuals. Fiscal year 23 actuals outpaced projections and were even higher than our fiscal year 22 actuals. Advancing to slide 9, provides option sales tax revenues through June. Most revenues also continue to trend higher than projections and finished roughly $45 million above projections. Most is due to be on a ballot for reauthorization next March, so we'll be preparing for community outreach efforts. Advancing to slides 10 through 13, this provides an update on Department of Watershed Management's Care and Conserve program, including our bill payment, LEWOP, and plumbing assistance support services provided to customers. Slide 11, at fiscal year end, DWM assisted a total of 1,730 customers and rendered a little over $2 million in assistance to customers in need. For the period, DWM has provided nearly $91,000 in bill payment assistance, as well as $844,000 in plumbing assistance. Advancing to slide 12, this provides an update on our expanded Care and Conserve program that now includes restoration support for low-income customers impacted by sewer backups and water damage. 3 homes began restoration implementation in February 2023, and efforts were completed for all 3 homes in July, and totaling roughly $176,000. We're continuing to refer customers in need to our low-income water assistance program. Customers have benefited from nearly $2 million from the program. The program has been recognized as a top performer locally and nationwide. I'd like to recognize the tremendous work by our Care and Conserve program team. Advancing to slide 14, this provides an update regarding Department of Watershed Management's accounts receivables. Total number of accounts with arrears overall has decreased since efforts began in January 2022. We've seen an uptick in disputes that we attribute to the resumption of shutoffs, but are seeing a decrease in the overall total of accounts not in dispute and have observed an increase in accounts being paid in full and on time. We're also in the process of procuring supplemental third-party resources to further aid collections efforts. We're hopeful to have these resources fully on board at the start of 2024. Next, I'll cover operational highlights. So if you advance to slide 16, this highlights the department's progress by the numbers relating to our core services and functions for the reporting period. Advancing to slide 17, this provides an update on Department of Watershed Management's internal metrics. We observed an increase in power utilization for both drinking and wastewater treatment facilities that we attributed to spring, summer months. We have continued stellar drinking water compliance, and and were met with some challenges on our wastewater side of the house due to some illicit discharges, and I'll elaborate more on those issues later at later slides. But we're continuing to see a much-needed downward trend in the number of water main breaks and new leak work orders for the period. Advancing to slide 18, our Office of Watershed Protection's SLA average for the quarter was 87.2%, down from last quarter's 95.3%. Team experienced some challenges with our erosion control inspections, which dampened performance a bit. It's primarily due to vacancies. We're actively working to complete interviews and backfill vacancies to ensure the team is fully staffed. And we are also reviewing salaries for the team, and we'll be working to implement the necessary adjustments to ensure that salaries are competitive in order to improve retention. Advancing to slide 19, our Office of Customer Care and Billing Services continues to have 100% SLA for the period. So great job by that team. Advancing to slide 20, this is our Office of Linear Infrastructure Operations SLA for the period was 96.5%, up from last period's 93%. I'm extremely proud of the OLEO team, as this is the first period, and particularly in the June numbers, where the team have met all SLAs. The OLEO management team conducted detailed root cause analysis to identify pain points in an effort to address underperformance and institute corrective actions. So a big kudos to the OLEO team for a job well done for this reporting period. Advancing to slide 21, this provides an update on OLEO service requests. 42% of service requests were related to sewer collections division, while 58% of service requests were related to water distribution division. Next, I'll cover compliance. So slides 23 through 26. Spring was a tough period for compliance. We recorded a record 135 NPDES violations during the period. The violations exceedances were due primarily to the slugs and abnormal influent wastewater characteristics, which resulted in challenges with processing and treating flows. So we spent the period pretty much slugging it out with the slug. We've not been successful in identifying culprits or sources for the abnormal influent flows. However, we've implemented swift operational changes to treat influent wastewater by adding nitrifying bacteria upstream in the collection system and micronutrients to strategic unit processes. We have continued to closely monitor influent flows and report any exceedances to EPD per permit requirements. I'm happy to note that at both facilities have stabilized and are now back into compliance. And just understand that compliance remains a top priority for the department, and the team is focused on accountability and compliance. The next couple of slides just provide a lot more granular detail on those violations. Slide 27 provides a summary of sewer spills for the reporting period. I reported a total of 32 public spills, no major spills reported, while 104 spills were confirmed to be related to private infrastructure. Next slides, 28 through 30. These provide a summary of activities related to our site development division. 575 permits issued for the period, both single-family residential and commercial, including multifamily. 1,679 plan reviews were completed for the period. And also personnel updates and progress with filling critical vacancies. We have a hybrid team still in place with support from our AE resources to support daily efforts, and are continuing to make progress with identifying and hiring internal candidates. Advancing to slide 31, this provides an update regarding our environmental construction enforcement activities for the reporting period. The team completed a total of 3,714 inspections, roughly 3,163 sites. 85% were found to be in compliance. while roughly 14% were found to be in noncompliance. The next few slides, 32 through 36, provide a more granular breakdown of totals of each of the activities and actions taken by council district for the reporting period. I'd like to note that the number of citations were 36, and they were up from last quarter's 23. We issued 30 court sessions. There were 30 court sessions, up from last quarter's 16. And we levied 16,808 fines, which were 5 times the previous quarter at 3,175. Next, I'll cover customer service and related initiatives. Advancing to slide 38. This provides an update regarding our recent customer service enhancements. We now have a dedicated phone number, as I mentioned in the last quarter report, so customers can connect directly with us to address water bill and related issues and matters, as well as hear about active water service outages. That feature went live in June of 2023. We will also recently launch an interactive map on our website at www.atlantawatershed.org, which illustrates locations across the city that are impacted by interruptions in service. So customers can now report an outage that will link back to ATL 311. And lastly, we're continuing efforts to implement additional modes for customer notifications via text message and robocalls to inform customers of water service interruptions. And that is anticipated to go live November, December timeframe of this year. Next, I'll cover environmental policy updates. So if you advance to slide 40. This provides an update regarding our efforts related to our proposed updates to our post-development stormwater ordinance extended detention policy development. This update will help to minimize flooding, improve system conveyances via extended detention and release for peak storm events, while supporting continued growth and development within the city. The proposed updates are pending review with Department of Law, and we will be providing a red line markup for review to the committee this fall. Advancing to slide 41, as part of those same efforts related to developing the extended detention policy, we've completed engineering analysis to identify flood-prone areas within the city based on FEMA designations, hydraulic modeling, and flood risk locations based on records of flooding and complaints. The result will be a dynamic and interactive mapping tool and a mesh layer that will illustrate flood risk locations across the city. The tool will be shared with the Department of Planning and will be placed on our website, and is projected to be completed mid-November with a soft launch and then a final launch in December. Advancing to slide 42, current events. This provides an update on our recent September 14th rain event that resulted in severe localized flooding within areas of the city. The cloudburst storm moved through the city from northwest to southeast Atlanta and impacted parts of the city, including the urban core, downtown, Atlanta University Center, Vine City, and Peoplestown. Rain gauges registered almost 1.5 inches in 15 minutes, which equates to roughly 3 inches in a span of an hour. Based on the intensity and volume of the rainfall, the storm event was determined to be a 25-year recurrent storm that has only a 4% chance of occurring any given year. Between the 1 and 2 year recurrent storms are the most current for our area. So these types of storm events are becoming more frequent, and is yet another indicator of the effects of climate change. To counter these effects, the Department of Watershed Management closely tracks and reviews rainfall data and is designing projects for a greater level of protection to incorporate resiliency for both linear conveyance and vertical storage projects to mitigate flooding. Next, I'll cover our capital improvements program. Advancing to slide 44, our 5-year CIP is just shy of $1.3 billion and comprised of 108 active projects. There's still a heavy focus on consent decree, but also strong focus on water and wastewater facilities and linear water assets. And we're continuing to balance capital investments across our operations to ensure completing upgrades to the most critical assets and to ensure long-term serviceability. The next couple of slides highlight a few of our notable CIP projects. They're either currently underway or on the immediate horizon. We've got our Upper Proctor Creek Capacity Relief Project that was completed this summer. Our North Fork Storage Tank and Pumping Station will be getting underway this fall. We have our Sewer Group 4 Small Diameter Rehab, Contract A, that is wrapping up completion. The sister Contract B that will be completed early next year. We have our Entrenchment Creek Decommissioning Project that is underway. And we have our Custer Avenue Multi-Benefit Capacity Relief Project that will also get underway this fall. Subject to your questions, this concludes my quarterly update. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Browning. We'll go ahead and take questions or comments from my colleagues. Okay, we'll start with Councilmember Shook.
Okay, so looking at the account receivables data, and some of this looks a lot like where the department was a year ago, and I know there was the amnesty, and from what I recall, that did generate activity on the part of customers. There were people coming in, people making appointments, people getting put on plans, and revenue was increasing. But in terms of the number of delinquent accounts and the total, am I wrong, or does this basically look like where we were a year ago?
There's been some fluctuations. What the numbers don't reflect are the accounts that have entered into payment plans. So we're going to figure out a way how to make that more visible. But there's been some fluctuations, and hence the reason why we want to look to third-party resources to come in and help bolster our progress. But on the good side of it is we are seeing, again, customers pay on time and in full. And what that has done is it's resulted in us seeing about a $25 to $27 million increase in the number of receivables over the year.
And is the department's, promised interest in terminating services, have y'all followed through on that?
We absolutely have. We're continuing to terminate services.
I see that your percentage of estimated bills went up June compared to May, compared
Yes.
to April. What do you think accounts for that?
Aging meters in the ground. We're looking to develop a strategy to tackle that while we are ready and progressing our look ahead towards instituting an automated meter infrastructure, so the AMI, smart meters. So we're going to really work diligently to figure out how to get that percentage back down in range while, again, we're progressing
It's
with
been
the
a
new
while since
technology.
you touched on the need to install new meters as a whole.
Yes.
So I guess that's still your plan. In the meantime, you're going to replace the bad ones on an ad hoc basis?
Yes. Yep. So we're looking at the age of the meters across the entire system, and we'll make a business decision on ones that are the most critical to be replaced now in order to bring those percentages back down into our norm.
And then there's going to be an expected revenue increase from having
We expect a revenue increase.
Because there was a significant increase when we went from the old mechanical meters are like clocks. They don't speed up, they slow down.
Right.
And then lastly, you've got a number of charts here, stop work orders, environmental and construction, enforcement. Why is 8 such an outlier in terms of having so much more activity?
I think just because there's a lot of construction happening in the district, but I can get more, do a little bit more deeper dive into it to see what's occurring in that district.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you, and I'll stick on the same questions because I see 8 as a good outlier. I'm wondering, how do you receive the enforcement? How do you receive the complaints?
We receive complaints from your fellow peers, council members, from residents, and that's the primary source, and the recurring inspections that our internal teams are conducting.
Because I'm thinking about all the development I have, and I know I just haven't been trying to figure out a better way to get the stuff to you, because when I ride past, and I know some folks are listening, the structures that don't look like they're supposed to be in your community shouldn't be there, right? The houses that we see them building. So it's not, the department isn't just riding past and then citing these houses. You have to actually be called out to come look at it.
So we know all of the, individual homes or developments that are underway due to them pulling permits. So when they pull a permit, we know automatically what stages of work they're in. And so the team is going to conduct periodic checks to make sure that those work sites are in compliance.
And I'm just thinking about all the bad actors that we have, that similar to why you have to put in stop code enforcements. So the best route is to have, is 311, is that the?
You can report it through
311?
You can report it through 311. You can feel free to send me an email and let me know if there's any bad actors that you've observed. And again, customers do report any sites that appear to be out of compliance.
And lastly, is this just for water type stoppages, or does your department handle all of the stop orders? For the work stop orders for the new constructions?
It's for any land disturbance.
Okay.
So any new builds.
Okay.
That falls under our
my
purview.
goal is to in the next meeting to see District 12 grow and match the District 8, because if you look at District 8, I know that it's an information thing, it's a knowledge thing, and folks are calling 311. And so now that I even know that we're supposed to reach out to you, I'm gonna make sure my folks are reaching out to make sure we can stop some of these bad actors. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Next, Councilmember Boone.
Thank you, Commissioner, for this report, and thank you all and your entire team. We speak with Deputy Commissioner Satterwhite quite often, and I want to just encourage him and thank him for his responsiveness. We really do appreciate that. Also, what is the status of the Westview community issue, and if we will be able to wrap that up soon, and if we can do a wrap up with the community?
So I believe we had a recent meeting with the Westview community. We've been continuing to progress our efforts to address the localized flooding within that community. So we've completed our phase 1. We enlisted one of our AE teams to complete an analysis or evaluation of storm assets within that location. That has been completed, so we're looking to go into phase 2, which will be the design and proposing the necessary remedial measures in order to address flooding. I'd have to get with the project team to see what the schedule is for completion of phase 2, but that project is still very much top of mind for us.
Thank you very much. And how are we dealing with your staffing shortages? We received an email on that 2 days ago.
I received the email as well. That email was in reference to some of the challenges with recruiting certified operators for our plants. We did have a program where we hired trainees and gave them a certain amount of time. They got on-the-job training. supported them through, the educational training for exam prep and gave them opportunity to pass the exam. But we've been having some challenges with the passage rate. As a result, we are fostering our partnership with Atlanta Technical College. They do have a new water curriculum that is of interest to us. We think that may garner us to be able to recruit candidates that have at least had some type of classroom background in water. It's not hard to pick up, but can be a bit nuanced. And so we are really excited about that partnership and hoping that we can recruit candidates into the water industry and specifically to support our plants. In addition to that, it is just peer-to-peer, looking to recruit other operators, poach, if you will, from other agencies who may be interested in a change and interested in joining the city. So we want to make sure that our salaries are competitive so that we can attract that talent, and not just in Metro Atlanta, even out of state.
How much do those salaries, what is the starting point at those salaries?
I don't have that top of mind with me, but I can certainly get that for you. But DC Fletcher, do you have an idea of what the starting salary would be for? So we've got three classes of operators. We have classes 1, 2, and 3.
And we're short on the class 1?
All three.
All 3 classes?
All 3.
Okay.
So the trainee salary top out around $45,000. Class 3s around $50,000, and our class 1s actually make the highest in the state of Georgia, which is around $68,000.
Okay, thank you. Whatever we can do to try to help train some of those folks and assist with helping them, because this is just a wonderful, wonderful career. I've seen so many folks grow and retire from those positions. So whatever we can do to help you all as far as job fairs and expressing interest in those, please let us know. Thank you.
And Councilmember Boone, as Commissioner mentioned, fostering that relationship with a post-secondary institution will be very helpful. Because of the pandemic as well as the Great Resignation, in 2022, we had maybe 20 trainees. Today, we have 9. And as Commissioner mentioned, they are struggling to pass the exam.
Thank you so much.
And Councilman Boone, another thing to note is that the issue is not just isolated with watershed management. When I talk to my peers across the water industry in Metro Atlanta and in other states, they're having the same challenges.
Thank you very much. I mean, watershed is just a very, very fulfilling and progressive career. So whatever we can do to help, please let us know.
We appreciate it.
Councilmember Boone, Councilmember Lewis.
I just want to make sure I say thank you for the work that you did on Avery Road off Perkison and Metropolitan. That's a 30-year issue. Folks have been living there for 40 years, and within one conversation and you coming out for a week or two, you were able to fix it, and then your folks came back 6 months later and restocked the rock. So I want to say thank you for Avery Road and the folks in the Department of Watershed. Also, I've been talking to staff, employees, and the morale is very high in the Department of Watershed. So I want to make sure I let you know that the morale is very high. And to piggyback off that, is there an opportunity to look at entry-level positions and to see if we can move folks up and train them so that we can hire some more folks into the entry-level positions?
We are doing exactly that. We look to more of our seasoned employees to train and establish that knowledge transfer with the younger members of the teams. But we do look to have to provide upward mobility within the department. We want to see our employees, if they start out at an entry level, for them to progress and grow their knowledge base within the department and hopefully stay.
I'll say that city workers have reached out to me in different departments because they know that the watershed department is where they want to be in their career. And so I don't know if there's a way we can not just look at department, if you can't find the folks in the department, because other departments their applications are already in. I know that for sure because they send them to me, even if they've never met me. They say, Councilman Lewis, I think you can help me get into Watershed. And so, but I know when you and I spoke, we talked about the technical things that they had to have to get in. And so if we're not able to hire folks and we're having an issue training new folks that have been working for the city for 5 years, plus that want to work in Watershed, if we're open to it, I bet they'd be willing to learn.
I'll get with the HR department and see if they can pull a list of candidates that are internal hires. But I do see often a lot of transfers from other departments. We're always willing to and happy to have additional, the internal team members want to come to Watershed.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner, my last comment is there any way we can do training for that exam? Like we train for the SAT, the LSAT. I mean, this is just, Watershed is just a wonderful career.
We do exactly that. We offer formal exam prep for those team members. We send them to a third-party vendor, GWWI, which is, I think, east of Atlanta, for them to take training and get prepared for the exam.
I really hope that we can do a really deep dive on trying to help young people pass that exam. I meet folks all over my community that have retired from Watershed, and it's, again, a very rewarding career.
And I would say we've supported them not on just the first try, but a second try. We really do try to encourage and want them to be successful in passing the exam.
Again, thank you all so much, and your entire team. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Boone. I did have a few questions. One, the denial rate for the Care and Conserve program seemed pretty high. Are any rationale behind just kind of like why we had so many denials for that program?
I don't have that information handy, but would definitely get with the team and get a better understanding of some of the reasons for the denials.
Okay. And then Councilman Shook kind of dove into the accounts receivable collection issues that seem to be compared to last year. Do you have any idea of what other major metropolitan cities are doing? Are they using third-party collection companies to do that? Because I know that there are history with some third-party collection companies that are a little aggressive, and just kind of figure out how we strike a good balance between being able to receive some of those dollars, but while also not, being too aggressive for our constituents.
I'll defer to Deputy Commissioner Jonathan Williams.
Good morning. DC Jonathan Williams. Several things I'd like to answer. We have actually suspended 809 accounts since we started this. Mr. Shook had a question about that, so I want to make that clear. Secondarily, the issue with us denying on Care and Conserve is the accuracy and timeliness of their paperwork. They have to adhere to certain guidelines, but they have to provide the information, and we're finding to a large degree folks don't want to give personal information. Your last question was related to whether other people use outside collections agencies, and there's a danger with that in that once you turn it over to somebody else, you can't control the tone and tenor, which we are very concerned about. One of the reasons it's, we've advanced some discussions with some other organizations is that we don't want to sell our accounts receivable. We want to work it ourselves or have somebody act on our behalf. So there's not as much usage of external resources by selling accounts as one would think for that reason. We don't want to come down hard on people who have had accounts that haven't been researched in 10 years. We got to take a deep dive into it, and for that reason, we're very careful about that.
Okay, very glad to hear that. And then next, I want to go back to the MPES violations. I'm just thinking about, for instance, South River reclamation site that's near Districts 12 and 1. The ammonia smell seems to be one of the biggest complaints or violations that we get. Are you getting those complaints from Atlantan citizens or mostly just from self-inspections?
It's due to self-inspection. It's due to influent levels of ammonia in the wastewater. And so that issue, I think, has been cured completely at South River. We're still having a little bit of fluctuations and challenges at our RM Clayton plant. But again, the plants have come a long way. I think we've turned the corner from that slug that we got that really threw things out of whack.
Okay. All right. Well, that was the final question from me. Any other questions from my colleagues? Well, we've already ended our legislative items. I do want to just remind everyone, since Commissioner Browning is here, that next Thursday we will have a work session through City Utilities and CDHS to discuss some of the flooding issues that we recently had in September on the 14th, when there was significant flooding in districts 3, 4, and parts of 1. And so we welcome Commissioner back during that work session so that we can discuss some of those issues and how we might be able to mitigate them going forward. But do appreciate a lot of the efforts that you and your team took in terms of making sure that there was remediation for constituents who were affected by those storms, and look forward to having a continual conversation about how we move forward and try to help with some of these significant rain events in the future. So with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you.